Hello guys, this is DG Studios and today we are ranking every single MCU film from Iron Man all the way to Far From Home to celebrate the release of Endgame on Blu-ray and digital and everything, every platform. And also I got a gauntlet, which is really cool. I really wanted to show it off in a video and now I have an excuse. First up is Captain Marvel, and I know you might be thinking, oh, Captain Marvel's my favourite film, but it doesn't have any memorable action sequences. The character of Captain Marvel is rather flawed, and not in a good way. They feel like they can't flaw her, therefore it makes it one of the least interesting cinema experiences that you can have, because you have a character that is perfect in every single way, that they don't really give her any thing to do. So that's why I think Brie Larson, because it isn't her fault, plays it with such sort of seriousness, is because it feels less like a character than a lot of the other characters do, and that's why I don't like it. And also right at the end she says that she's gonna like defeat the big intelligence, and then cut to her just eating dinner with Nick Fury. Next up is The Incredible Hulk. Is a very bland film, and I think that because we have Mark Ruffalo and we're playing a decent Hulk, that we simply need to just kick this Ed Norton film far down the list. The next film on the list is Captain America: The First Avenger. The reason that I don't like this film that much is that I feel like Captain America is very weak as a character in this film. You know, that's why I like The Winter Soldier, because his character improves greatly. In this film, he doesn't really have that much of an interesting character. It does feel like he's just kind of this sort of flawless person, and I really don't like that. The next film is Thor. Thor for me is much weaker than the sequel. The first one, I feel like it is a lot weaker. It's very sort of uninteresting, and it does feel like Marvel's trying to just dot itself out. It's not very complex, it's not very interesting, it's just sort of there. And it's a film that you might watch occasionally, it's on television, but you won't actively seek it. I don't think anyone finds this film their like generally favourite. There's nothing really bad about it, it is just bland. The Dark World is also a bland film, but the reason that it's slightly further ahead of the first one is that I actually like it a little bit more. I think that Malekith is decent as a villain. I understand there's not much to this film, but there's sort of this simplicity to it, and that's something that I quite like. There's a lot of jokes that aren't very funny, but if it's on television or something, then you'll probably watch it. The next film is Iron Man 2, and to me, I think Iron Man 2 would be a decent film if it really sorted out its pacing during its second act. During the second act, you basically have that Russian guy, the Whiplash guy, talking about how he wants to see his bird for most of the film. Especially during the second act, this film feels a lot longer than the first one did, and I don't think it is that much longer, but it does feel like a really long film when it's not. It gets cluttered by that second act full of dialogue instead of any action. The next film is Doctor Strange. I feel like I actually prefer Doctor Strange in Endgame and in Infinity War, because I feel like he's a lot more interesting, and a lot of the magic that he's doing is a lot cooler, a lot more creative than he did in this film. There's a genuine basis of sort of karate or jiu-jitsu or something like that, some kind of fighting style that's put into it, which is it's a decent fighting style. Some of the action scenes are quite cool, and that's why I quite like this film, but it is rather stationary in how it does its action. Like, they could do crazy stuff, like they could have people literally flying between worlds and so forth, but they don't do any of that. The next film is Ant-Man 2, and the weakest thing about this film is the ending. When you watch this film, you build up to this point, and then everything just kind of fixes itself like that. And I don't know how it does it. There's a scene when they come out, and there just seems to be a moment when they bring Hank Pym's wife back, and she's like, oh yeah, you're having some problems? There you go, you're fixed for now. So that's the end of the film then. The next film is Guardians 2. Now, I really liked this film, but I didn't feel like it warranted to be any higher on this list, because it is a really enjoyable film. The music's cool, the colour's cool, the direction, the acting, everything is really cool, but I just feel like there is way too much talking in this film. It is very much if you look at the dad side, which I think is probably the most interesting, there's a lot of just talking for a great deal of the film. And, you know, the Ravager sort of stuff is not as interesting as what Peter Quill's doing. So I do like this film, but I have to sit through quite a lot of stuff that doesn't interest me that much. You know, and also it's difficult. These videos are difficult because you're coming up with things to critique it. You know, things like, oh, the pacing is a bit off in this film, which it is slightly, but it's not a bad film because of it. Ant-Man is fun. It is hilarious at points. It is a heist movie. It's something different. It's also a superhero movie, all at the same time, and that's really all it has to it, which again makes it a really good film. You know, a pretty decent film, but compared to some of the other things in the MCU, it just doesn't even get a look in. We have the first Guardians of the Galaxy now. This film was just a massive surprise, and I think that is why many people like it as much as they do. To me, I don't like it as much as everyone else seems to, but I still think it is a very good, cool film. You know, the music again is great, the atmosphere, the direction, it's all really good, but you know, the scene in the prison is amazing, but you know, I have to come up with things that separate these films up, because otherwise I won't have a video. It'd be just like, number one, every single film in the MCU, like I just don't see it making. I just have to try and figure out ways to sort of separate them, but these reasons might not have genuine reasons. They might just be because I like this film more because I like it more and I had a better experience enjoying this film than I did enjoying this film. Talking of experiences with films, Avengers Age of Ultron is next, and to me Avengers Age of Ultron is was amazing when I watched it first in the cinema. When I watched it first, I was like, oh my goodness, this film is amazing. It is the best thing I've ever seen. It was the first review I did on YouTube, so don't go and find it because it's really bad. But to me, it was just a film that I believed was just incredible, but then I saw it again and again and again and saw the mistakes that were kind of left without. Throughout, there was a massive cluttered production process. Poor Joss Whedon was really putting everything he could into this film, and it eventually caused him to leave after this one because he was just so exhausted, and it just to me has that really bad sort of tinge, and them introducing Vision is very odd, and that's not just me saying that. I'm pretty sure Joss Whedon, when he had to introduce Vision in this film, he was a bit like, I actually don't know how to introduce Vision whatsoever. The next film is Black Panther. Now I feel like this film is really good, and it's a lot of fun. There's some really cool action sequences and everything, and I love the atmosphere of the the setting and everything. But the last sequence has some really bad CGI. When they're fighting in the underground, they almost turn into rubber. I just think it is really not good CGI. The next film is Avengers Assemble. Now, this film blew my mind as a child. I thought this film was just incredible. Big action sequences. A big action sequence at the end was just amazing. But the more that I've seen it, the more that this action scene cannot cloud the very cluttered film that is lying with it. And it's cluttered because they have these characters and they're all trying to give them things to do, and I think they balance it really well, but they just can't seem to escalate the plot quick enough. When you think of when you think of this film, you don't think of the beginning or the middle, you think of the end because it's the best bit, but the rest of the film is actually rather bland. This film I chose was Iron Man 3. Now to me, Iron Man 3 is an amazing film. I love it a lot. As a child, it generally scared me rather a lot because I was quite scared of the super soldiers. but I do actually quite like this film. I do feel like the Mandarin thing was wasted, and thank God we're gonna get a do-over in the next year or two. And Aldrich Killian is not the best villain that the MCU has ever had, therefore Iron Man 3 has to remain where it is. Next film is Homecoming. I feel like this film was not the most interesting thing I've ever seen. I felt like I really wanted to see a Sam Raimi sort of Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, and we didn't get that with this film, and that is why I haven't added this film any higher in the list. Even though I really love Spider-Man, I feel like his consequences and everything don't really add up that much, and I feel like in the second one we get a better picture of his life and his struggles with trying to juggle being Spider-Man and being Peter Parker at the same time, and that doesn't come across in this film. The next film is Iron Man. Now this film is simple, but it's good. Do you know why it's good? Because it has this sort of love inside it. Do you know, you can tell that a film has had a lot of work put into it. You know, that's why I feel like Thor the Dark World is just a bit of a run-of-the-mill sort of film. But with Iron Man, I feel like it is a bit of a passion project, and I appreciate that more, and that is why I've put it higher up in the list. And also, you know, this gave me some of the coolest action scenes in a film for a while, and, you know, Tony Stark as Iron Man is perfect. Then we're going down to Far From Home. Now I do like this film, and I've seen it twice now in the cinema, and I really do like it. I love the direction, I love the action, I love Mysterio. I really do love it a lot, but I can't put it any higher on this list because there are way better films than it. And this is not sort of, I have a really good reason for it, a well thought out reason. I just feel like I have to compare it to every other film that I've seen, and if I do that, then I feel like it just can't go any higher. Next up, we're looking at Avengers Infinity War. This film is amazing. I love the scene at the beginning, and I love the scene at the end. I love the New York thing, and I love obviously the fights at the end, but everything in between is perfect. And I had to really come up with an idea to, you know, why I could split them up a little bit like this. And it was simply because of pure enjoyment. I've seen this film many a time now that I know too much of it, and me watching scenes again and again and again means that everything becomes stale and overused. I think that as a fan base, we were so looking forward to Avengers Infinity War that everyone crowded in and watched it many times. In the same way that Endgame will one day become extremely stale. So at the minute, I'm sitting there saying I love Endgame, but in a few years, maybe it will become a little bit more stale, like Infinity War is, because I've seen it so many times. You know, I love this film so much, but I just feel like it is not the best that I've ever seen. The next film is Thor Ragnarok. Now, to me, this was a personal choice. I just love this film a lot. I feel like it's funny, and the action's really cool, and the colours and everything, the direction, it's amazing. It's why I love Taika Waititi. But, you know, I did my media work on this film because I loved it so much. So, therefore, you know, it had to be high on this list. Now, I have seen it many a times, and I realise that the jokes do ruin a lot of the tension of the film. Captain America: The Winter Soldier is an amazing action film. It's like a spy film. It's when they fixed Captain America and brought him back into the 21st century and made him interesting, and included fight scenes that were well choreographed and didn't use shaky cam like this. They were moving cameras, sure, but they were showing you everything that happened, and, you know, watching behind the scenes, you're looking at Captain America and the Winter Soldier actually fighting. And finally, it's Avengers Endgame. I think this film is a masterpiece. There were moments in this film when I cried because of how beautiful it was, and it's exactly what I wanted to see on a film. A lot of people are sitting there saying, oh, well, they didn't do this, and I'm really sad that they missed these opportunities, but you had 3 hours to try and do as much as they could with it. They're not going to get every single little thing that you want in. So therefore, I think out of everything that we could have had piled in there, we got some pretty decent stuff. You know, there were a lot of rumours that they were going to add loads of unknown characters like Squirrel Girl into Endgame. That didn't happen. you know, things like that. And there are so many things that we haven't discovered about in-game yet. It is incredible, and therefore I think we need to love this film and keep watching it. You know, this film made so much money, I think it would be wrong not to put this film at number 1. Hey guys, that is everything. Thank you very much for watching. I need to speak really fast because my camera is running out of storage because this video has taken a while to make. So thank you guys very much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, make sure you give a like, and I shall see you soon. Goodbye.